I only ever went to like one Black Friday event. Like I stayed up till midnight. I did the whole thing. There was nothing I wanted. So I got like a gallon of Arizona iced tea and I drank it all in one night. And I've never peed so much in my life. It was a mistake.
On the Dallas Opera Network, you're listening to Opera Box Score.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Wherever you are, however you're listening, it's America's talk radio show about opera. It's Opera Box Score. I'm your host, George Cederquist, joined this week by Oliver Camacho, Matt Cummings, Weston Williams, and Ashlee Hardgrave. All right, this week, if you're a die-hard OBS fan, you're probably listening to the show Friday morning as you nurse your gravy hangover. This week, we'll skip the divisive opera news and the A-list singers and quarterbacks behaving badly. Instead, let's celebrate feasts and family the OBS way with Weston's soup song of giganticide. We serve up a buffet by taking a look at a plate full of works where food and music go together like peas and carrots. Remember, you're watching on TDO. You want to subscribe to the podcast on Stitcher. Just favorite the show on Apple Podcasts. And you can always email us your hot takes, operaboxscore@gmail.com. Drop us a line. Get that OBS beer coaster. Get that OBS lapel pin. Just for sharing your hot take. We got the whole family back this week. This is like perfect timing. Oliver Camacho, great to see you.
Yeah, we wanted to do a show for you guys that feels like the, bottle episode for the holidays, that you can listen to it every Thanksgiving. You don't have to worry about what Aaron Rodgers is doing or what Anna Netrebko is doing. It's just enjoy us.
I like how both of those people are consistently problematic enough so that we can say it and it literally works for any
It will still be evergreen without.
Yeah, absolutely.
Noted medical scholars, Anna Netrebko and Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly. Matt Cummings, part of the family here. How are you?
I'm good. I got my to-do list for the week jam-packed. Got to bake a pie before I drive back to Pennsylvania.
Why don't you just go buy a Patti LaBelle sweet potato pie?
Oh, it might do its ugly head. Weston Williams here with us as well.
Yes, I am not making a turkey this year. I am doing a very British thing and making a roast for the first time.
Really?
And I probably will burn down my entire apartment. So
A roast beast?
A roast beast, yes.
Pro tip, if you do roast potatoes, put them directly underneath the roast rather than separate on the side.
I was going to balance them on like the heating elements. Is that not what to do?
I love that idea.
Okay.
Ashlee Hardgrave.
Wait. You can't just give cooking advice like that without being clear. Are you saying put the roast on the rack that's in your oven, like on the grate, and then put a pan underneath that? Or are you saying put the beef literally on top of potatoes? Because I've done the... Go on.
Please, no.
Because I feel like people think they should put, a big piece of cold meat on top of their cold potatoes. And what happens is you have raw potatoes when you're all done.
You do. No, you do need a roasting pan and a roasting rack.
It's a SmackDown, culinary SmackDown.
No,
Oliver versus
I thought I've seen Oliver get mad about correcting people on the show before.
Oliver
but
and I are on
as
the
soon
Not
as
when
you
it comes
said
to
that,
a roast.
This is a rare moment where Oliver and I are agreeing on how to cook a piece of meat. Ashlee Hardgrave, how are you?
I am great.
I love what you've done with your place, by the way.
Yes, contrary to listeners, it looks like I'm in a reboot of Little House on the Prairie. I'm not. I'm in a family spare bedroom back in my home state of Arkansas. And I'm back with my boys. I haven't seen you guys in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It's great to see ya.
Thanksgiving.
It's been a while. The gang is all here. We're going to talk some opera. On the show, it's a buffet of opera, music, food, and family. We've got 5 different operatic and vocal works for you, all having to do with food. We've argued, because what would family be without a little bit of arguing about what order we're going to go in, but Oliver actually drew the short cheese straw and is going to go first.
Well, I just want an opportunity to talk about Cenerentola because I don't think we have talked about it on OBS. And I wanted an excuse to bring it into the conversation because as people of the other podcasts about opera that I've been known to do already know about me, it is one of my top 10 operas, and it's my favorite Rossini opera.
Oh, same here. Same
And
here.
I just love this story, which to me feels like Harry Potter origin story or something like that. It's the same thing where, Angelina just suffers so much with her family, but yet she has this magic power. And the magic power that we get to hear is coloratura, but her real power is forgiveness. And it feels like it comes from this line of Enlightenment operas, namely Mozart operas, where the whole point is to get everybody, into a situation where somebody has to forgive you because you've gone so far, you've messed up everything. So the only way to get out of it is forgiveness. And here we have this character, Harry Potter, or Angelina, however you want to describe her, who has this magic. And, her vocal style, the way Rossini wrote for her, is tied directly to the coloratura capabilities of his dramatic heroines, his, tragedians, like Semiramide or Elena in La Donna del Lago. Like, she has those same tricks, which make her an opera seria character in the midst of a comedy, supposedly a comedy. And we get little hints of it, early on in the opera, but of course it all is leading to the finale of Non più mesta, where she just, brings the curtain down with the coloratura spectacle showpiece. One of my favorite moments in the opera, which has to do with feasts, is after she's done her makeover, she got herself her hairs did and her nails and her makeup, and she comes into the ball and she is unrecognizable. And we get this moment before she even speaks of her entering the building. And our first clip is just the confusion that is created at this ball / feast, with everybody saying, who's that? Who's that? Who's a woman? There's no other woman in this town. There's just two really that live in this town. So then the sisters, the stepsisters, you can hear, are always usually cast by these very soubrette, very like brassy, unbeautiful type voices. And it's not fair that they get cast that way, but we're going to hear just the stunned court of Prince Ramiro and the sisters saying, who that? So after everybody's like, oh, who dat? She finally makes her vocal entrance as this mystery woman. And she says the thing that really encapsulates the spirit of this opera. And I want to pull up my libretto so I don't get this wrong. Okay, she says, sprezzo quei don che versa fortuna capricciosa, mofra chi mi vuol sposa, rispetto, amor, bontà. I scorn those gifts which fickle fortune lavishes upon us. Let him who would take me to wife, offer me respect, love, and kindness. So here she is for the first time in her life in this space where there's beautiful food in front of her. Everybody's dressed so nice. It's all, elegantly appointed, and finery and tables and ballets and uniforms. She's like, I don't need any of this. I just want goodness. I want kindness, Then we get the Rossini finale. And of course, it starts with this moment of everybody being confused. And when you're confused in a Rossini opera, you sing a phrase in the like the frozen affect, like the stunted affect. And you sing it, and then somebody else in the cast sings it, then somebody else in the cast sings it, and you pass it around like a hot potato.
Is that a technical term?
Yes. it's just so much fun.
I saw what you did there.
And then because it's an Italian opera, there is not a ball, there's not a dance scene here, a dance sequence. Instead, it's a meal sequence. And we get
That's
to
my kind of sequence, baby.
we get to the stretta of the first act finale, which is just gorging. And I know, Matt, I want you to chime in here, but there is actually something that is a little bit, I don't know. There's two things. One, it's hilarious because these Italian operas from this era are so tied to Commedia dell'arte.
Mm-hmm.
And when you know that, you realize that like every character has one motivation. And, Ramiro is looking for love, and the sisters are looking to please their father, and the father is looking for power. And Dundini he's a valet, so he's actually hungry. And so he's in disguise for the first half of the opera, but he's actually dying to eat. Like, he never gets to eat this way.
In disguise as the prince.
Yes,
Yeah.
in disguise as the prince, And so, and of course, these other characters are also hungry. And it's just a great moment to pig out on the stage. So many productions of this opera, I say, was like everyone's just like shoveling food in their face in this scene while going through the
Do you
strata.
guys do the thing? Like, I remember when I was growing up, going to the opera, my favorite thing to do would be like to take binoculars, because we're all the way back in the nosebleeds.
Yeah.
And every time there was food on stage, I would just like lock in and see who was actually eating and who was faking
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing to do at the opera. Highly recommend.
So fun. So fun.
Well, I want to hear Matt's comment about this, but before I pass it over, I love this opera so much because despite everything that Angelina goes through, what she asks for in the end of the opera, or in the penultimate scene of the opera, is for Ramiro to not be angry at her family. And then when she has the wedding scene, what she asks for is just for them to be a family. That's all she's ever wanted, And it's almost like whatever Stockhausen syndrome, like where you love your abusers,
Did you say
Stockholm?
Stockhausen syndrome?
It's Stockholm. Although,
Is that what I
wanna know what
have?
syndrome that is.
Weston, you do have
That's where
Stockhausen
that's where
syndrome.
you listen to Samstag aus Licht unironically and enjoy it. That's a great opera.
Not just for the
That's a
bit.
different episode.
And like there are so many operas where you're supposed to cry, like Traviata and La Boheme, and like I'll probably cry during those operas. But the opera I'm probably going to cry at the most is Marriage of Figaro and La Cenerentola, because the forgiveness moments, for whatever reason, just really get to me.
My favorite moment of almost any Rossini opera is the stretta of the Act 1 finale, because it is where like all of these pieces that you've been building one at a time, like the whole tower is there, everyone's on stage, they're all singing, and the different rhythms of all of the different layers just like add on something that, even though no one part is necessarily like show-stopping or interesting, it creates something bigger as this whole. So that's what I will be listening for, much like a Thanksgiving feast.
Yeah, and you get the Rossini crescendo where it's like the idea is so simple, but to see it actually, and our friend Anthony Barresi came on and explained how it really works. It's not just things are getting louder. It's just like there is like a rhythmic idea that is getting a little bit faster, and there are instruments that are being layered on, and you don't even hear the layers that are being added, but it just makes it sound more and more intense. It's like that moment where you've put all this stuff on your plate and you don't even know where to start. And you
It's
want
like
to
making a lasagna.
Yes.
The traditional Thanksgiving lasagna, like we all know and
yes.
love. Yeah.
Very, very Italian. Oliver Camacho getting us going with Cenerentola and the feeling of family. Weston, you mentioned seeing food on stage, and that makes me think of when I was a boy soprano. I was in a production of a show which had real food on stage, and boy, was that
Did you
exciting
eat it?
to me.
Did you
We
eat
definitely ate it. Yes.
Amazing.
I was in a production of Albert Herring, Benjamin Britten's
Friend of the
opera
show, Albert Herring.
from 1947, which premiered at Glyndebourne. And in Act 2, everything has built to this big May Day festival where Albert, because there's no virtuous enough young woman to be the May Queen, Albert has become the May King, and there's this huge party planned. Well, his friends are going to get him drunk by lacing his lemonade with rum. Meanwhile, the local music school teacher is trying to corral these 3 kids into preparing their songs for the dignitaries, and all they want to do is eat these
Treacle tarts.
yes, various
sausage
pieces
rolls.
of food. Lots of food being mentioned there, including jelly, which of course would just be Jell-O, pink blancmange, which is I remember this when I was in boarding school in England. We used to get blancmange, and it was just so you did want to drink afterwards. It was just so foul. It was sort of
What
like
is it?
it's like a sort of chalky, thick, cornstarchy Jell-O. It looks like someone's brain has fallen out of their head onto your plate.
It's just one
They've
of those
never
British
made it on
desserts.
Great
Yeah.
British Baking Show.
Yeah. I mean, British desserts from the 20th century, early 20th century have really strange names, you know.
Spotted Dick, yeah, go on, Oliver. Yeah.
Well,
Might have
that's one of
censored
the
that for TDM.
Of course, they talk about seedy cake, which is a sort of a Victoria sponge made with caraway seeds, treacle tart, which is one of my favorite desserts of all time, sausage rolls, trifle, which you would know, chicken and ham, of course, cheese straws, and marzipan. It makes me really think two things. First of all, this opera, written in 1947, rationing was still a thing in Britain at this time. And so for these kids, this would have blown their minds to have that much
the mother
food.
load.
Yeah. Try making a seedy cake with one egg in rationing.
We've all tried it. We've all failed.
Here's what I remember as a child being in this production. It was directed, is at the University of Michigan. It was in the School of Music. It was directed by Ken Kazan, who's now the head of opera at University of Southern California.
I just sidebar, Ken Kazan's Death in Venice was one of the best things I've ever seen
back
in
at
the theater.
COT in the early aughts, I think it was.
That destroyed me, that production.
Brilliant director, tons of fun. And I remember, first of all, when you listen to that clip, the music that those three kids have to sing, those close chords, I didn't get it right. Not one single time did I ever get.
And no child ever has.
Well, your mouth is full of the treacle pie, you know?
More importantly, I remember this. For the cast party, my mother, who is English, she made all of the foods that the children sing about and brought them to the cast party and explained to these University of Michigan undergrads and grads in voice what they all were, and their minds were completely blown. And I will never forget just that wonderful sense of family that Oliver talked about earlier, and sharing such a rich and cholesterol-inducing repast.
You know, before we leave Britain, I just want to say that's what I love about him, is that even when he knew what forces he was writing for, he never wrote down. He always wrote his music, even when he knew it was going to be kids and like volunteer church choirs and whatnot putting on his stuff. It's like, no,
sing those sevenths, children. Get it right.
Yeah.
And don't you even get me started on the bounce me high, bounce me low section of that opera when you're playing with a ball against the wall to provide the percussion part. That still gives me nightmares.
Good call. Bad call on Opera Box Score.
I don't know about all of you, but I am so full right now. I'm full of
Your
food
heart is
and
full.
I've had
full of
so
music.
much pear.
My heart is full. That pear, I don't need to eat that pear. We'll do a good call, bad call, as we always do, to wrap up the show. We'll start with Oliver Camacho for a good call or a bad call.
My good call came to me as we were actually having this conversation. It made me think of my own little tradition around Advent, which is to listen to Benjamin Britten's St. Nicholas cantata. And it's another one of these pieces that was written for basically for a community or for a special event, but he knew he was going to be working with, you know, church choirs and children's choirs. And the writing for the chorus is very accessible. But then there's like this string quartet that plays that is clearly doing the more Britten stuff. And then the tenor soloist has the real like Dudley Moore imitation of a Benjamin Britten opera, Britten complicated music. But it has like these hymns. So the entire audience can participate in this cantata. And it really does, I think this piece is more for the performers than it is actually for an audience. And I think it makes it so joyful. And it's somewhat related to Christmas because it's like the origin story of St. Nicholas, who, you know, eventually becomes Santa Claus, but not really, you know. So listen to St. Nicholas Cantata. There are 3 recordings. You can find one. Pick your favorite.
Over to Matt Cummings.
Well, much like Oliver, I was thinking of what music I'm going to be able to listen to around the time that this episode drops, because I have a strict no Christmas music before Thanksgiving policy.
Ooh, wow.
Which means that this coming weekend, I will be listening to the Lincoln Center Christmas with Kathleen Battle and Frederica von Stade that we talked about on last year's Christmas episode. And let's descants for everybody, baby.
Weston Williams, what do you got?
My good call is this pear.
Oh
Go to
God,
Trader
dude,
Joe's,
just-
pick up those big bags. They're worth it, man. It really puts me in the holiday mood.
Ashlee, Hardgrave.
I will also be listening to lots of holiday music, including all of the Messiahs that I gave you guys last year, and also Boyz II Men Christmas Interpretations. The thing still holds up. But what I was really thinking about for a good call this week, and the only way it's holiday related is do not try this after your third plate of leftovers this weekend, is Jakub Josef Orlinski breakdancing in front of Lincoln Center that was released on the Metropolitan Opera's Instagram. If you have not seen it, go check out the Met Opera's Instagram. You will know which clip I'm talking about, where Orlinski is busting all sorts of moves that should not
and doing
be attempted after
handstands,
stuffing.
like really complicated handstands. He's
Correct.
Incredible. Yeah.
That's awesome. We haven't talked a lot of sports on the Evergreen show this week. I will say, Thanksgiving Day, the Lions, my Detroit Lions, always play on Thanksgiving Day. This year, it's the Bears are at the Lions. Lions, of course. Thank you. Lions, of course, have yet to actually win a football game this year. They did manage to tie the Steelers. So by the time you get this show, perhaps the Lions will have yet one more loss in the bucket. That's it for this week's edition of America's Talk radio show about opera. Our announcer is Norm Woodel. He's at normwoodel.com. On Facebook, just search for Opera Box Score. Twitter, Instagram, at Opera Box Score. Help us deepen that bench of listeners, liking, sharing our social media posts. Email us your hot takes, operaboxscore@gmail.com. Drop us a line. Get some merch. OBS beer coasters. Hey, that's food related. OBS lapel pen. Hey, that's not. Just for sharing your own hot take. Subscribe to the podcast. Stitcher, just favorite the show. On Apple Podcasts, our creative consultant is Oliver Camacho. Our audio and video editor is Weston Williams. For your co-hosts, Matt Cummings and Ashlee Hardgrave, I'm George Cederquist, asking you to continue the conversation about opera as you feast on whatever you're feasting on this week. We're back with an all-new show next week. We go inside the huddle with Kyle Kettleson. Plus, you get more opera headlines, more hot takes, and more Patti LaBelle's sweet potato pie. Join us.